All right. It is 4:30 p.m. and I call to order the February 4th, 2025 Board of Trustees workshop. Do I hear a motion to begin the workshop?
Madam Chair, I move we begin the workshop.
Thank you, Ms. Shealy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Okay. The district is in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act by notifying the media of the date, time, and place of the meeting. The district tapes the meeting for accuracy in preparing the minutes. I now yield the floor to Ms. Flashman.
Staff and guests, sorry, getting used to this new spot. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Madam Chair, I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pizzuti. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Okay, I will turn it over now to Dr. Price to begin the 6-month review of the strategic plan.
Madam Chair and ladies and gentlemen of the board, as part of our strategic planning efforts, our team committed to giving the board an update on our implementation efforts at the 6, 12, and 18-month markers. Tonight, we will present to you our first 6-month check-in. Some of the items presented tonight have been completed, many are in progress, and some have yet to begin. Throughout our presentation, members of the leadership team will rotate in and out as we go through the specific components of the implementation. And please feel free to stop us and ask questions at any time during the presentation. Our mission is to guide all students to learn, grow, and excel. Our newly established graduate profile and instructional framework will ensure that our work is focused and intentional over the next 5 years as we strive to fulfill our mission. Ultimately, if we are successful, every Lexington I student will be prepared for success in their chosen pathway, whether that's college, career, military, or a combination of two or more. As a reminder, our strategic plan is divided into 3 different sections. One that focuses on academic excellence and acceleration of learning. One that focuses on positive climate and school experience. And one that focuses on stewardship of resources to support learning. We established measurable goals for each of the 3 areas that had to be submitted to the State Department of Education and will be reported on annually through 2029. Academic achievement had 3 goals. One was to see our academic achievement points, which focuses on math and ELA scores, on the state report card grow to an average of 61.6%. Another goal was to see our student progress reports, those that measure growth from one year to the next, for elementary and middle grow to an average of 58.5%. And one was to see our CCR, College and Career Readiness Student Percentage growth goal to reach 71.5%. And for teacher and administrator quality, this goal will be submitted once we have a baseline from this year's results of our teacher evaluation rubric process. As mentioned, tonight we bring you the 6-month progress report. Goal 3 of our update focuses on resources, and we have 10 areas to discuss with you tonight. Shane Phillips is going to lead us off, and we're actually going to begin with Goal 3 instead of Goal 1. Mary Gaskins has several updates for Goal 1, and she is currently working with the Calendar Committee, and the end of their meeting is overlapping with the beginning of this one. So we're going to go, instead of 1, 2, 3, we're going to go 3, 2, 1. And hopefully she'll be here to join us by the time we get to Section 1. Okay, Dr. Phillips.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, new members of the board. Hi, I'm Shane Phillips. I'm the Director of Assessment and Accountability for the district, and I'm excited for the opportunity tonight to talk to you guys about several things. The first of which is the program evaluations that we're undertaking in the district. So based on the recommendations of last year's curriculum audit, the district adopted a comprehensive program evaluation plan for the district. And from that plan, 5 programs were selected by the board for evaluation in the first year. These are listed up here. And of these 5 programs, 2 have been completed so far. We've completed the College Center evaluation and the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program evaluation. And those reports are linked on this slide for your reading pleasure. The evaluations for the Center for Law and Global Policy at River Bluff and the non-CERDEP pre-K programs are in process right now, well underway. And the summer arts programs, since they're in the summer, will be evaluated over the summer when we have the data to collect for those. Similarly to last year, other programs that have been listed in the plan will be evaluated on a cycle similar to what we did last year, where you guys will select the new prioritized programs and we will move forward with them in the following year. I'll be happy to answer any questions about that at this time.
So at a later time, you'll go into the process of how it was evaluated.
Yes, ma'am.
I see
We'll
that in
be
here, but-
discussing the process of the evaluations, and we'll actually present on the first 2 completed evaluations later in this month at the next board meeting.
I guess, how long did it take to complete?
Well, if I'm being honest, 5 was really ambitious. They're depending on the program and the amount of data and the processes involved, particularly since we're kind of starting on programs that didn't have like established logic models and specific goals. They've taken a minute to do. I mean, in general, with other things that my office is doing, a couple months.
Okay.
I don't anticipate moving forward that they'll all take that long, but it has been surprising how long some of them have taken. Other questions? All right. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, sir. As mentioned before, Ms. Gaskins is heading up a calendar committee meeting right now, and the goal for this particular, within this goal, number 3, was to convene an academic calendar study group. And they are in the process of beginning that now for the 26-27 school year. You saw some changes that were presented for the 25-26 meeting at our last board meeting. And there's going to be some additional information coming about the professional collaboration days soon. So that's forthcoming. But this process for the 26-27 academic calendar year is in progress as of today.
All right, good evening, everyone. So HR is up next, and we were excited to tell you a little bit about what we have been working on in relationship to Goal 3 and our job description project here. So to ensure our job descriptions reflect current needs and best practices, we implemented a regular review and update process. The job description template itself will be reviewed annually, incorporating any changes in legal requirements and district-specific policies. Individual job descriptions will be reviewed on a 3-year cycle or as needed due to role changes, organizational restructuring, or significant shifts in positions. This ongoing process will help us attract and retain top talent by presenting clear and accurate job descriptions. You're going to see here our revised template that we will begin utilizing, as well as our process to identify contacts in each division to begin archiving job descriptions that are no longer essential and standardizing some of our job description language. I do want you to know, though, we haven't been doing nothing up until this point with the job descriptions. As we have been going along, of course, we have been going through the process, reviewing them as positions come available while we've been working on the template and on streamlining the process for alignment. We've been going through things like, so for example, titles that have changed over time. So think about guidance counselors becoming school counselors. So over time, you may have one person who signed a job description that said guidance counselor, one signed one that said school counselor. So you have people with various, not only job descriptions and what they do, but just titles. So we're trying to streamline all that. What are we going to call it? Is it called the same thing in our system that it's called in the finance system? All this, trying to align all those systems. And that is quite the task. So,
Ms. Price,
yes.
if you change anything in someone's job description where they've signed a contract, do they have to sign anything that they are aware of changes in like a job description or something?
Yes. So we would not change like their duties or responsibilities without having a conversation with them, what that would be like, and making sure that was truly in line with the position that they signed on for. Titles, so for example, when media specialists and school librarians, that title, when that changed, like that was a State Department decision. That wasn't something that we, that was a State Department decision to change those titles. We changed the titles. That's not something that witnesses, but we do usually go through and have them sign that. That's something we've had to clean up over time because that was not always done over time. And we are still working through that. That is not complete, and we are still trying to clean all those up. What were the old titles? What are the new titles? Did you have a job description? Do you need a new one? Are the duties the same? And we all know, especially in education, there are a lot of duties that we all do that are not in our job descriptions, right? And so fine-tuning that process as well. So even just as simple as what are the titles that are in the job description is a huge piece to kind of to tackle. But other than that, also just thinking about, we had so many job descriptions. We had one for a secondary math teacher, a secondary English teacher, a secondary social studies teacher, a secondary science teacher. Do we need a job description for a secondary teacher of each of those, or do we need a secondary core, instructor? So thinking through that a little bit so we can streamline practices and make sure that maybe we don't need, 5,000, maybe we need 500. And where can we bring that in, make that a little bit tighter? And that's where some of that language comes in. And so that's where we're trying to make those points of contact and make sure that we are involving people to make sure that we have the right language, the right titles, all the right pieces. So that's going to take a little bit of time, but we are starting with kind of easy to hard. Let's get the titles right. Let's get out the job descriptions that we know we don't use any longer. Let's go through those pieces and parts and make sure that we have a process in place to do it on a regular basis, and hopefully we will get there together. So a lot of words. Any questions on that?
The next component of Goal 3 focused on developing a plan for a systematic review of board policies. And we've noticed that some of our policies haven't been touched in quite a number of years. And so, but we also recognize that the board policy manual is hundreds and hundreds of pages long. And so we were trying to talk about and devise a plan that we could do this systematically over time to come up with a strategy to make it consistent and current. And so we put together a proposal that we wanted to bring to your attention and share with you. So first of all, as different departments are working through different components that are reflective or related to policy, we may recognize things that need to be updated as we come across them. Or there may be an update in law that means that we need to update a policy. those things like that, as they come along, we're going to bring to you and make those updates as we go. But as far as systematically, we're going to use an existing tool and a resource that we get every summer. Every summer, the South Carolina School Boards Association releases an annual update of all model policies that need to be reviewed or revised. Now, some of these policies we may agree with, some we may agree with in part, and some we may disagree with. That's where you as a board have the ability to look at anything that's proposed and to tweak it so that it fits Lexington 1, so that our board will always have a voice in making any kind of modifications to policy. But every year we get this list, and some of these policies may mean that we need to make a change. Some, we may not have a policy that relates to it, and we may not need a policy that relates to it. And then there's some that may not require any changes whatsoever. Our thoughts are that we review these things annually when we get this report and address them as quickly as possible. The ones that need to be adjusted, we adjust them and we change the date. The ones that we review that don't need changing, we update it with a review date. And those that we don't need a policy, we can share that a model policy was presented, but not recommending that we adopt it. So we've listed some steps here, and that's kind of the concept that we were going to do, beginning with the 24 annual report, the annual update that we received from the School Boards Association. We have created a draft plan to take all of the policies that were mentioned last summer, and we're going to be bringing those to you between now and the end of the school year. So you're going to see as we move forward, we've got a plan that kind of maps out, and it covers different departments. So they'll be coming from different departments about what these recommendations are. So once we get that, our thoughts are, okay, once we get caught up with this is something that we can do every year to make sure that we stay up to pace, and we do this intentionally. Once we get caught up with the current years, we can start working backwards at previous years to see if there's anything that we should have updated in our policy manual that didn't. And so we will work backwards from that. In addition to that, we went through a curriculum audit last year. And in that curriculum audit, there was some recommended policy changes in there as well. So taking all of these recommendations, mapping them out over time so that we can bring them to you in chunks consistently until we get caught up. Once we do that, then annually, every year when we get these updates, we'll look specifically at those. This is provided to you in your documents that kind of outlines those steps, but our task was to come up with a systematic way to review these and bring them to the board's attention in chunks that are manageable. And so that's our presentation to you today, and you're going to start seeing these coming in second semester. Be happy to answer any questions on that.
Quick question, as you're sharing the next batch up for review, I think I've seen in the past where y'all put them in the board briefs kind of as a heads up, and then it'll be in a future agenda. Y'all will plan to continue that process.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Price, do we have a numeric number roughly that a chunk would consist of? Is that 12, 15, 10, or does it vary?
We didn't discuss that. We were ideally going to keep it less than 10 in a chunk, but if the board wants to take a more aggressive approach, then we can consider that as well. We can start with a conservative number and then modify from there if we need to.
There's been some chatter, over the last couple of years about, do we bring back a committee or not? Did y'all discuss that? And board, is there any discussion on that at this time?
We did not. That would be a board decision on whether or not they wanted to entertain that option. That was not in our marching order.
A both and, correct? Right. I mean, it could be.
Right. That would be up for the board to discuss if that's something
right.
that they wanted to consider. All I would say to that is the folks that are going to be reviewing these policies are going to be bringing them forward. Mm-hmm. And any policy that's brought forward, every board member will have the opportunity to weigh in.
Right. Okay. Does anyone have any opinions on a committee or?
I mean, I think what the ad hoc committee with the previous board was us more focused on the B policies, which are the board governance policies. I don't think that ad hoc committee was looking at every policy.
Right, just the board
Yeah.
policies.
I think that an ad hoc committee might actually slow it down. I mean, if we're going to try and do this between now and the end of the school year, you've add another component to that, I think it's going to slow the whole process down.
Mr. Anderson, if I may clarify, what we're going to do between now and the end of the school year is the results of this past summer's legal update, not all of them. So, yes, sir.
I guess my thought on, I actually have a question for you all, and then I have a thought. What would it be helpful to have participation from the board in updating policies? Because I look at it as how much y'all have on your plate with everything that are in all of your job titles anyway. And I just wonder if the board can be helpful, or is it a help in your opinion, or is it a hindrance, is my question.
It's probably too early to say right now. And what I would suggest is let's start with this first batch that we've got that are kind of laid out, and then maybe revisit that question once we get through this batch. And based on the way we've got it mapped out, we should be able to get up to speed with last summer's. And if we're able to keep that kind of a pace, then we'll be able to take next summer's update and update all of those, hopefully throughout first semester, and then second semester, we'll start to use our look backs to the things that have been referenced before that we can catch up on. So I'd say let's give it a try through the end of this semester, and then let's revisit that question, and maybe I'll be able to tell you more accurately.
I think that's fair.
Ms. Flashnick, just to kind of piggyback off of what you said as far as the board's role, I think it's important for us also, though, technically our introduction is in board brief. So it's kind of important for us to do our homework ahead of time before we come to first reading where it's introduced in new business. Because I know last time you sent some stuff to them ahead of time with some thoughts. And so instead of us just coming in and surprised at first reading, having, thoughts to share. So I think that would be something.
And oftentimes there's a lot of work that's done by the people in this room in coordinating voices from throughout our school district where policies may impact them. And so it's a collective effort. And so we try to get buy-in, especially on things that are going to be impacting others. So that's part of the process as well.
One thing I would like to say is I do appreciate the work that the district does for, putting stuff like this together, going through it. But also want to remind our board that one of our biggest duties is setting policy. So if any board member has any issues with the policy or would like to see it changed, I wouldn't wait until we get something from the district or something else. Bring it up in a meeting or get it on the agenda so we can discuss it early from that point of view. But again, like I said, it's a lot of policy. I think we all can work together because there is a lot of policy. So I think it's a team effort.
Thank you, Mr. Rizzuti. I appreciate you sharing that. And so I absolutely agree with that. So if there's ever something that comes to your attention when you're reviewing a policy and you see something that may raise a question, that's certainly an opportunity to bring it forward for formal discussion. It doesn't have to wait until it shows up on a plan, a timeline.
One thing that I've been thinking a lot about, I don't think it's a surprise that I'm pretty passionate about policies, at least in this circle, perhaps. I find, and I know that I don't come from an education background, but I find our policies super cumbersome and hard to interpret. And as a parent, when I'm wondering, like, okay, if my child is sick, what do I have to do? Or, and I don't even know if there's a policy on this, so don't hold me to it, but I wasn't sure if my son could wear a hoodie to school. And I know that's more in the handbook, but I just wonder if we shouldn't look at, I respect the South Carolina School Board Association and what they do, but I don't wonder if we shouldn't look at least putting together a template or a framework for policies that are much more manageable for all of us and future boards, future superintendents, future senior leadership teams that aren't so overwhelming and cumbersome. So that's just a thought. Maybe we can build something through this process, and maybe the administrative rules or the handbooks or other things that our teams use day in and day out to do their jobs can reflect more of the nitty-gritty details. And the policy is really just setting the direction of, we want to go from here to there. So just a thought.
And perhaps if we come across a policy that fits the description that you just gave about being cumbersome, maybe we can use that as an example to dive into to try to simplify.
Or to that note, if we added, at the end of the policy itself, we had an example, to make it easier for a parent to understand.
All right. So the next piece for HR is about tracking and structures for HR standard operating procedures. And in order to consistently execute and apply HR procedures across our systems, our HR team is continuing to develop standard operating procedures that operationalize our structures and streamline operations by outlining step-by-step procedures that support consistent application of Lexington 1 policies and procedures. And I'm really proud of my team for the work that they've been doing to try to incorporate this. So you see kind of outlined in the bullets the steps that our division has been working on. We developed an internal kind of SOP tracking tool that facilitates the structures by which my team members kind of work to develop the SOPs and request other feedback. And these drafts ultimately determine the best methods for sharing SOPs with relevant stakeholders to organize and streamline the work. So, for example, how the workflow is for me when we're going through, for my team when we're doing something is different than the workflow of the SOP for the principal, and it might be different for the employee. So it might be one SOP structure that we start with, but it might have 3 different versions because my team needs to do the work one way, and then I want there to be a principal-facing version so they know what it looks like on their end, and then I want there maybe to be an employee-facing version of that. So one SOP may take on 3 different formats. So it's a lot of work even to kind of get one simple SOP across the table and across the line there. So they've worked very hard on that. I'm very proud of the work they've been doing with that. So we developed the structure by which the completed SOPs are shared with supervisors or employees as warranted by the procedures outlined. We are continuously refining the practices leveraged when it comes to HR functions such as recruitment and hiring, onboarding, employee benefits, enrollment, employee credentials, just to name a few of those. And then we're tracking and managing the procedures, allowing for regular updates, clear communication of responsibilities, and streamlined operations. And so that's a regular part of our conversations in HR when our teams meet as part of the weekly meetings. What SOPs are they working on? What SOPs are they cleaning up? What do we need to revisit? It's just a part of our regular language in our division. So as we continue to work through those, you're never done with those. They're never finished. They're constantly being revised, and you're constantly writing more of them. We will continue to develop and share the SOPs that serve our employees well by providing the necessary structures to be more consistent with some things. So just some examples of things that we've been working through. Certification, we've kind of completed some flow charts on what that should look like, both on our end, on the principal end, on the teacher end. Evaluations, what that could look like. Hiring, like what does that hiring process look like? Leave, if I'm going to go through long-term disability, what does that look like? How do I apply for that? What does that look like on our end? What does that look like to complete the long-term disability process? Temporary employees, subs, those kind of things. So just, every aspect of HR that you can think of, we're kind of working through that. And now that, of course, we are trying to do things electronically, then it looks different even than it did a year or 2 ago when you were doing paper versions. So again, it's constantly changing, but we hope it's making it better for our employees and for our stakeholders and those that we serve. So, any questions on that?
Ms. Price, I have a question.
Sure.
Like we just referred to policies a minute ago where South Carolina School Boards Association gives us model policies. Does your group get direction, say, from the Department of Education about HR SOPs, or are we pretty much having to come up with all of that ourselves based on our experiences?
We don't get direction from that, but we certainly do a lot of research and pull from a lot of different places. State Department would be one. We try to attend a lot. Kimberly and I both are members of SHRM. We try to look outside of just, school areas of the world. We look at the business world. We look at a lot of legal areas and get a lot of support from that, so that we are pulling not just from school world, not just from the legal world. We're looking at all areas to try to get as much information as we can for SOPs, for the legal end of it, for employee support. So I wish we had a nice, great place to pull from. But any other questions?
Not really a question, but one thing you're learning about me is I like to give credit where credit is due. And some of us attended the recruitment fair y'all had Saturday. And I just want to say that your team did an excellent job putting that together. It looked like it was pretty crowded, which was good to see.
It
so
was good
hopefully, so I know you look excited when I saw you. So I just want to say good job on that. And hopefully we got some good candidates in the district.
Thank you. My team did a great job. Kudos to them and to all the schools who came out, because we couldn't do it without them. And it was a nice, steady, consistent pace, which was great to see for a change. And we did have an increase this year, which we are glad to see that trend line going up. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Thank you.
I guess I'm the shortest one. I got to move this down. Sorry. All right. Good evening. I'm going to talk about a couple of things. One of the things we've been doing in finance is making sure that our account code structure is aligned with the South Carolina Department of Educational's Financial Accounting Handbook. As you know, my prior life was an auditor, and I always joke that the one reason I picked school districts as a place I would like to work at was our account code structures are laid out in a very nice handbook by the State Department, and based on the account number, you know exactly what's supposed to be posted in the account. So it's very exciting to have that structure and to get our software in line with that. It's enhancing the structure. We've been able to change the format of that to add modifiers so that we can further categorize expenses, so that we can do analysis and look things up. And then we also have 3 digits at the end now for a budget manager. So while my colleagues are doing a great job budgeting, hopefully this will help make things more efficient for them when they're budgeting, and they can pull reports down to different levels of executive directors to manage those budgets. And then it's an ongoing process. It's not just a one and done. There's always new accounts every day that are needed for different expenditures. So we will continue to review that and work with the vendor to make those changes so we have accurate and transparent reporting. And then, Devonna, did you, Mrs. Price, want me to just go on to the next one since I'm up here? Okay. Are there any questions about the accounting software? I know it's exciting stuff. All right. The next one, as we're standing here talking tonight, I'm understanding why we're all so tired and all the work we've been doing. Sometimes you kind of forget all the work you've done when you do a recap like this. It really puts it in perspective. As you know, we've been working with our software, making things more efficient. HR and finance have been working closely together to make sure we can reconcile the number of positions between the two accounting and the accounting software and the HR software. We have different needs in HR versus finance. While finance just needs to make sure we're paying our employees the right amount at the right time, HR is looking at the future and wanting to make sure we're prepared for the hiring seasons. And so trying to reconcile between those two, I can't add those positions yet to my accounting software because then I would start paying them. So I have to not have them in there. So it just takes really daily communication between the departments and keeping up the system so that we are reconciled. And then it's also helping us from the budget perspective of seeing if there's anything that needs to be eliminated, if there's positions that can be reallocated, are we being equitable across the district? And then also as far as the dollars, do we have the right dollars with the right FTE? So it's an ongoing process, and I appreciate all the hard work. I know Kimberly Freeman is over there smiling. She has worked so hard on this. Her and Lindsay Price have done an amazing job, and I know that Devonna would agree with me. We just couldn't do it without you guys. We really appreciate all the hard work. Are there any questions?
Good afternoon. And as we continue to plan and prepare in regards to our finances, in regards to our personnel, our facilities are of equal importance to ensure that we can meet the needs of this growing district. And You will recall in December, right before Christmas, Mr. Christopher Dick from Demographic Analytics Advisors shared the board recap version of the demographics report attached, linked on this PowerPoint. You'll find the full report of his demographics analysis. And you'll remember he collected a variety of data points and ran a variety of modules to look at the long-term growth that our district is expected to feel. Both what our natural growth that we have within the district, the retention of students within our system, and then also the big part for us is immigration, folks moving into our area. And you see, we see the evidence of that impact as well. And so taking not just that common sense approach, but also an analytical approach to what kind of growth can we anticipate, we feel prepares our district administrative team and this board to make decisions about what's necessary for our building construction plans going forward. This plan feeds the facility study, which is underway. We have procured the firm of McMillan Pasden Smith, and they are leading the effort along with district and school staff on that 13-month project, fed by the demographics report, working in collaboration with DAA to develop our facilities study report for the next up to 10 years for this district. This is an analysis of our facility conditions, the assessment of the conditions of all our real and all our own property, our portables, our parking lots, everything within the building envelope, all of our systems, all of our equipment, all of our additional facilities to support students both inside and outside of the classroom are a part of this. This report will generate recommendations for facility improvements for the district. And importantly for this team, for you, board, capital improvements prioritization list along with a financial analysis. What does it cost to do those things to keep up with the wonderful facilities that we do enjoy in this district, and then also make sure that we are ready to receive the students that will be with us in the future. Additionally, along with the facilities assessment will be the development of a comprehensive maintenance plan, which will be very important for our maintenance and operations teams so that we are prepared to do the maintenance and make the improvements that we need on a systematic and timetable type process. Just today, we, along with 5 MPS architects and engineers, completed our first facilities walkthrough. So they were on site today. We were at New Providence Elementary School, which is in its 18th year of existence. For some of us, I think we look at New Providence. That's a new school. It's 18 years old. So we were on the roof. We were in the kitchen. We were in the electrical closets along with their staff as they look at what that school will need to maintain its current condition, to maintain it into the future, and then to be able to, again, with that demographics study, look at how do we manage the growth in that area, which we know is where the end is very full already. Next, just have a couple items on here. Just as even though we are planning and that long range planning is of utmost importance, there is still work being done as we go. And so for you here, we do have just a cross section of some of the recent capital projects that have been completed this year. This is by no means a comprehensive list, but just a couple that we would like to highlight. It wouldn't be right not to feature South Lake Elementary School. That's not it. I thought I timed it really well, Daniel. South Lake Elementary School.
Daniel told me I was driving.
That's right. Oh, okay.
He took the wheel.
And I just think these drone pictures they really show off the impressive construction that was done for that facility, but a great addition to the schools in the Red Bank area. There with our newest elementary school, and then also a capital project that we would like to highlight would be River Bluff's new turf. If we could just go to that, and that's part of our capital, our 8% capital projects plan, and the first of that 5-year plan to turf our athletic fields due to due to the number of teams that we have, and it's a great problem to have. But there you see little Friday Night Lights action of River Bluff, and really proud of the product that they put on the field. It's held up very well this year, and I know our kids have enjoyed competing on it.
And in addition to a number of teams that we have, the numerous teams, little leagues, and that use our fields.
Yes.
That they're just constant.
That's a great point, Ms. Henson. This really does allow us to be real good partners with the community, and we won't. I mean, if you're going to have big Gators on Friday, they got to be little Gators that are excited about being in there, and so that's a great partnership for the community. And from a selfish standpoint, that helps with our athletic teams. I mean, kids generate that interest and that desire to I want to be there one day when I get big. It's important that they get that chance when they're little.
Are any other high schools using their field for activities like that, or just River Bluff?
Not to the extent that River Bluff does. That River Bluff Youth Sports is a component of the Lexington Recreation Department, which doesn't have I'm using the wrong word, chapter really on that side of town. And so this really does expand what the Lexington Rec can offer, because of the having access on that side of town. And the turf field really does make it easy to have that partnership.
But I do know that, like, the Wildcats have their own thing, but they practice, like, Ballpark
Yes,
Road, and White Knoll has theirs.
Lexington Rec teams practice at all of our schools and
Right.
in many of our gyms. I just was meaning that River Bluff, that program, it is a large one, and because they don't have Ballpark Road over there. A couple of the other items that we did have on there to share with you. There's several other of our utility sheds that we've been adding to our facilities as well. We don't have to go through each one of those, but nonetheless, those are important projects that have been approved and have been completed. Current
Was
and future
that
projects.
shared between the two schools?
Yes.
That building?
Yes, ma'am.
'Cause they're right beside each other.
Pleasant Hill Elementary and Middle, sister campuses. So you notice the one large utility shed there. Current and future projects, again, not meant to be an exhaustive list by any means. It is meant to show you the work going across all attendance zones, though. Did want to feature that. We do have a lot of projects that are happening and are in different design stages of being completed. You can see by many of those types of projects, they are summer in nature, need to be done when the youngins aren't there. But be excited to get those projects completed as well. Both you see, like at North Lake, improving an existing facility, an older facility, but improving it with rooftop units and improving the HVAC over there. Lexington Turf, year 2 of that returf plan. Life safety systems, which are very important. The Gilbert Middle, refreshing that gym. That was a very old gymnasium. The teaching kitchen at Rosenwald. Our special services folks are ecstatic about that, and they've been great to work with there in terms of giving students some great opportunities. Affordable relocation. We need to acknowledge it. It is happening, and moving those double portables, but one double to Centerville, one double to Gilbert. So 4 classrooms coming online. That'll come online this summer. Culinary Arts, working with Bryce Myers and his team as well on that, and then continuing to upgrade our playgrounds so our kids have safe places to enjoy their recreational time.
Mr. Cooper, I got a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, we're working with MPS now on this 13-month project you had mentioned, and you said a lot of that would end up helping dictate our capital improvements. Will they also kind of give us a systematic way for prioritizing across the schools where we go, or will we have to do that internally?
They will. The prioritization list is part of it. Yes, sir. So the kind of like Dr. Postwaite has done with us and Dr. Price as well. Our must-dos and our Lexington One standards and our want-to-dos, same type items. It will be prioritized.
Okay. The only other question I have is, I know we talked a few board meetings ago about maybe a long-range plan for replacing turf, putting turf in at some of our other high schools. Do you anticipate once we start converting those to turf, will we start to share those other facilities as much as we share River Bluff, or have we not gotten to that point yet?
We haven't gotten to that point yet, sir. that River Bluff situation is unique with Lexington Rec, and in terms of providing capacity and support for them over there. But one thing that I know is important to this administration is that we are good partners with the community.
Coming off, piggybacking off of Chris's about the fields, I know, like with Ballpark Road aspect and the Gilbert stuff, the recreation department is, I'm assuming, covering the cost for the maintenance of that fields for those students or for those kids that use that. Is anything in place, like with our agreement with the rec, that we sharing some of the responsibilities and the cost of maintenance on the stuff if they're using it?
Anytime we do a facility use agreement, that is analyzed and where appropriate applied. But across the board maintenance cost sharing, no, sir.
Okay.
I know River Bluff Youth Sports for sure as a 501c3. I don't know about Lexington Rec, how they're set up. And I don't know how that applies or doesn't, but.
Any other questions?
No worries. Okay. Moving on. You saw a video, you saw the photo, but there was a video that was aired earlier. It was just evidence to successfully open South Lake Elementary School. So moving on to goal number 2, we'll now shift our focus to climate. And there are 7 specific areas to share with you. And Mary, is Mary here yet?
I am here,
Hey, there
but
she
hi.
is.
Thank
She
y'all
will
for
start us off just in time.
Dr. Shane Phillips is going to actually give us a quick overview of the pulse survey results.
Hello, I'm back. So for the past couple of years, the district has conducted a pulse survey using selected questions from the state of South Carolina's annual school climate surveys. We just take a subset of those questions that are used on the accountability system and sort of gauge the pulse of our teachers and students in our schools. We ask questions related to working conditions, safety, instructional focus, and social and physical environment. And then we aggregate those to come up with a satisfaction index for each school, for students, and for teachers. That is on a 6-point scale, with 6 being the best. And linked here on this slide is a quick summary of those satisfaction indices. We do go into great detail with schools at their mid-year review meetings about those pulse surveys so they can get a good idea of those areas that I mentioned, how their folks are feeling within their buildings. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about that.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes, ma'am.
with all of the data with the climate and school experience, how much emphasis is put on exit interviews for people who leave the district to give us insight to this stuff as well?
That's likely a question for Ms. Price, but I know that we've been doing stay interviews for the people who stay to get an idea of how well those folks are, or what they think about different areas, and then exit interviews. I'm going to exit this way.
Well, I can talk about exit interviews a little bit, and then we have a slide on stay interviews as well. But we do exit interviews. I feel like, Jennifer, you got to make it a little bit taller. We do exit interviews. We offer the opportunity for anyone who exits may do an exit interview through our office with their generalist, or if they'd like to meet with someone else, they may. Sometimes those are hard, and they prefer to do them or not. That's their choice, how much or how little they would like to get into an exit conversation at that point. But for our all of our certified staff, as far as we have ventured into, we have a separate exit interview that we do that is an anonymous electronic survey that they can do. It is optional, of course, that we collect data from every year that allows us to dig in a little bit deeper if they will complete it. That allows us to norm it across both schools and districts across the country that offer that survey as well, to kind of see where we stand. It asks them about like their school climate, how they feel supported in their school and in their district. And so that's been a great tool for us. Right now, we're only doing that with certified. We would love to expand that to support staff as well at some point. So we kind of offer two different options for exit surveys.
Have you seen any trends that have been things we've been able to address to help future retention?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to get people to do it. And we, even anonymously, yes. But it's, we sit around 40 to 50%, which they tell us is actually not a horrible number. But we would love to see more. But yes. Okay, you ready for me to go to my next one? I think I'm up next. Okay. So the next section for us is the Employee-Centered Benefits Request for Proposals. We did a benefits RFP. So on February 28th, 2024, Lexington County School District 1 posted an RFP for an electronic benefits enrollment and communications services program to secure an employee-centered comprehensive employee benefits system that empowers all of our Lexington 1 employees to easily manage and understand their benefits. We believe that a specific focus on employee benefits management system will streamline benefits administration by reducing dependency on HR for routine inquiries and enhance employee satisfaction by providing timely, accurate, and personalized benefits information. The updated contract was recently awarded, and our team will begin sharing the next steps regarding this exciting initiative to support our employees as we look forward to the benefits onboarding for the 25-26 school year with the award. So we'll be finishing out our contract with the current company, and the 25-26 school year will start with the new company. So we will be working with them soon to transition over. And I think I have the next slide as well. I'm up for a little while. This one is about our revised HR systems, and we've been talking a lot about systems and policies and practices, but through revised HR systems, our division continues to implement structures that are transforming the way we support employees and supervisor needs by offering streamlined processes, improve access to information, and enhance workflows. So some examples of that. Leave request forms for both special leave exemptions and longer-term medical leave are now accessible electronically for employee requests and supervisor consideration. Additionally, the process by which certified employees submit documentation for the certification renewal is facilitated through a direct link. Other forms are also available electronically through a dashboard called Forms I Can Start, allowing employees direct access to needed resources. So, not only are we just trying to go electronic for the purpose of streamlining things, but we want employees to have access to them at home or wherever they need to. So they're not waiting on us to get a form, and they know where to go. They know how to access it. It's easy to get to, and they know where it is, where it lives, and they are able to get to it when they need it. It also helps us because if we're not spending time trying to process a piece of paper, then we can spend time trying to get to the things we need to do, like how can we help serve and how can we help retain staff in a better way. So automated workflows reduce administrative burdens such as manual data entry and paperwork. So from onboarding new hires to processing leave requests, these systems ensure tasks move smoothly through predefined steps. That improves our accuracy and our consistency. Integration with our payroll team further eliminates redundancies and improves response times. So by optimizing these processes, we were able to provide quick resolution of HR-related issues, seamless communication to ensure employees are afforded easy access to pertinent information, which translate into improved experiences. So as of this fall, again, certification and paraprofessional credential information is easily visible to supervisors. That's something they had to kind of go search for before. Who's certified in early childhood? Who's certified in elementary? They had to either call us or go search through files, and now they can click and they can see that in their building. Enabling principals to make important instructional decisions. Additionally, an improved human resource management system provides clear information about each position's work calendar, hours, and other essential data. For example, school-level secretaries have shared that shifting forms such as the HR 12 support staff schedule of daily hours has made this required onboarding step much more user-friendly and easy to manage, as the forms are automatically routed to each employee's electronic file, so we don't have to chase down a piece of paper. It goes just in to that person. They sign it, and it goes straight into the file, so there's also not a person having to go and put it in a file anymore. Additionally, recent feedback from school and division leaders illuminated a gap in accessibility of important information related to employee leave and absences. So as a result, associated workflows have been adjusted to ensure that supervisors have access to essential information while employees' personal health information remains protected in the process. So we're able to route things to who it needs to go to, and the things that don't need to be visible to them, we're able to block that out. So as we continue to grow and improve, our HR systems will increase opportunities for real-time dashboards and analytics for employees and supervisors, which will offer insights into various trends and metrics, fostering proactive decision-making and aligning strategic goals with organizational objectives. So, questions about that? Okay, let's just do it like this. So, this is probably one of our favorite things to do is the stay interviews, because our goal really is to retain all the amazing people that we have in Lexington 1, right? And so my wonderful, amazing partners in instruction agree to take this on with us, and they are in the schools. They are visiting with teachers and staff and helping us to do this lift. And so we couldn't do that without them. So a huge shout out to them as well. So we decided, the first year we did this, we decided in 22-23 we were going to do interviews, and we conducted interviews with over 75 Lexington 1 teachers, most of whom were in their third year of teaching, because we knew that the research said that's a year that a lot of our teachers tend to leave because that's the breaking point there. And so throughout that school year, a number of our veteran educators shared that they would like to participate in stay interviews, and our instruction team members went out and we collected data, and you can see kind of some of the feedback patterns there from that. Some of them are really easy things to fix. Like they'll say, like this light bulb over here, like it hasn't been working for like 6 months, and we can fix that right there. And some of them are more complicated, and so we collect data and we have a process for that. And we've learned a lot about processes, and we're getting better at this stay interview thing and how to tweak it and what we wanted to do. So this year, Mary's team and my team, we decided we wanted to tackle special education teachers because, again, that's such a huge need. And so for this year, we were able to talk to 95 educators who for 23-24, let me go there first, I guess. We did 10th year educators because we wanted to see the difference between the third year and the 10th year. Like, what would that look like? What would the difference be? Teachers who are a little more stable in their career, what would be the difference in their responses? What would we see? And some, as you can imagine, some of the things were the same. You can see some of the patterns up here, and some were not. What we know hands down, and you guys already know this, relationships matter, right? They stay because they have a great team. They stay because they have a great principal. They stay because the culture in their school is amazing, and they want to be in their school. They love where they are. They love their teachers. They love their teammates. So you can see some of those things listed there. And then this year, we wanted to really focus on special education, and we looked at those teachers, and we had 81 of them elected to participate in the process. And we are still kind of analyzing and going through some of that feedback as the teams have finished that up and thinking about, you saw some of the responses of that in the salary study data collection process. We shared some of the feedback with you and things that we heard over and over again of the things that our special education teachers had to say. But hearing from them and having these teams of people from Central Services go out and just sit down and say, tell me what you love about working here. Tell me what would make you stay. So this, what do you love about coming to work every day? Just having a person sit down and talk to them means so much to these teachers, and they love that people are willing to listen and that they have a voice. And so we love that part of it. So as you can imagine, it's very important for us to hear this voice as we work to retain those teachers that serve our students every day. And we want to continue to figure out how we can not just include teachers, include support staff, include different groups of people. There's only so many of us trying to get out there and do them, but we want to continue to figure out how we can build upon that as well. So any questions about stay interviews?
I have one question.
Sure.
You said elected to participate. Can you expand on how teachers, other than if you're not a third-year teacher and you're looking at stay interviews for third-year teachers?
So the first year we did all of them, all third-year teachers. We would send invites and try to go out. We can't force them to meet. So, and their plates are full, and we get that. So we said, let us come visit, let us come visit, let us come visit. Ultimately, if they chose not to have us there, we're not going to force ourselves. We're not going to force anybody to have a stay interview. Same kind of thing with the year that we did, the 10th year. This year, obviously, the special education group was a huge group. So we tried to just do as much of a sampling as we could to get as many different types of special education teachers, as many different voices as we could from as many different places as we could this year. So it was a little bit harder. We didn't have quite enough manpower to do every special education teacher this year, so we tried to do as many as we could. Other questions? Mary, I don't know. You can try. Daniel's coming. He's got it.
Because I was trying to decide how I was going to be as graceful as Devonna was, holding the microphone, and she set that high bar. So one of our goals this year, and you all supported this in the budget last year, was to really enhance our behavioral program, adding 2 additional elements. One is Atlas, which serves pre-K through 5th grade students who are exhibiting challenging behaviors that really interfere with their ability to participate in a traditional school setting. And so Atlas is alive and well and running very well. In the slides, you'll see an overview just as a reminder about the type of students and the type of services available there, as well as some details regarding how students are, like the application process and what that experience looks like while they're there, and some of the highlights and a status report from this year. We've had 23 students so far served in the program this year. We have 18 currently. The majority of the students have been pre-K and first graders, and so the good news is that we've had the opportunity to really take advantage of that early intensive intervention, which was the point of the Atlas program. We've had 2 students successfully transition back to their home school, and we have 3 more who are scheduled to do so in the next couple of weeks, and so we're really happy about those success stories. At minimum, students would stay at Atlas for 12 weeks, and that's if they meet their behavior goal every single week. So that's the minimum time a student would be there. We also decided last year to have the Connect program, which was specifically for students in K through 5 with significant cognitive disabilities with severe maladaptive behaviors. Unfortunately, we've had a hard time staffing that program, and so we're still actively trying to do so, but we don't have that one off the ground yet because we need the perfect board-certified behavior analyst to really be on staff to oversee that program. And so we're still actively trying to hire that position. Any questions about the behavior program?
Ms. Gaskins, just a quick question. You mentioned 23 students for this year, 18 currently. Are we having any students that go to the classroom and have to come back to Atlas again, or is this kind of a one-time intervention we're having to do?
We haven't yet. So we've only had 2 return to the home school. So time will tell, but our goal is that we don't have that happen. We do provide support. So staff members of Atlas transition back to the home school with the student and stay for a few days to really try to implement some of those same interventions at the home school that have been successful at Atlas to support that transition.
Is the staffing that's currently there appropriate, or are there more needs that we could meet if there were?
You all recently approved the other 0.5 of a counselor, and that was essential. So thank you for your support with that. Social work is an area where we're trying to figure out how to really engage the social worker at the students' home school, and they're already really stretched. So that's an area that we're still working through, as well as mental health services. We're partnering with both Lexington County Mental Health and Life Changes to provide support there. The teaching staff and support staff, I think it's perfect. We're having to think about how we make some shifts to serve those younger learners. I think when I came to you last year, we said that each class size would be 8 to 10, and we thought we could serve a maximum of 30 students. Now we feel like 8 in each class is probably the best approach. And so I don't see us going to 30 at this point with the behaviors that we're seeing.
And I can talk to you more about this afterward, but what's the best way to explain to a parent or, someone maybe interested in the program for their child?
Mm-hmm. So it would be to talk with the school administrator and the interventionist at their child's elementary school, because we implement interventions Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 at the elementary school before a student comes to Atlas, just to see if we can make anything work at the school and monitor what might work there before a student is removed from their school to come to the Atlas program. But they could absolutely talk to their administrator, and anyone's always welcome to call me too.
Okay, thanks.
All right, I'll very quickly talk about Positive Parent Program. Through 2 generous grants, we've trained almost all of our school counselors, social workers, and family liaisons who work in our Title I schools, as well as some members of our Family Center in Positive Parent Program, otherwise known as Triple P. And by the end of this year, we'll have everyone trained, and they're able to offer some tip sheets as parents come in and have particular concerns, as well as offer some sessions for parents in the evenings, both virtual and face-to-face. I think I'm passing to Libby.
Good evening. We can go on to the next slide and then the next one. So for the 2 focus strategies that kind of really fall under my umbrella, which are 2.3 and 2.4, the 6-month deliverable was to develop a strategic communications and engagement plan. So I'm here to say I don't have that plan, but I have a plan for not having the plan, and want to explain where we are and what we would like to do. So we are monitoring, adjusting, and as we sat down and started kind of rolling up our sleeves, both figuratively and literally, and like diving into, okay, we need to, now that we have a 5-year strategic plan, we need to develop a communication strategic plan that would, next slide, that would support implementing consistent, high-quality communication strategies and collaborating with family, business partners, and community members. So under communications, those are the 2 specific things. But also, in my world, I also look at a communications and strategic plan that is going to support the entire district's strategic plan. So as I look to do that, my training tells me that that process for developing a plan like that happens with research, planning, implementation, and then evaluation. And I wanted to look at what research we had. And we have basically a lot of anecdotal research. I had been here by that time a year and a half. I have my research as a parent and certainly my connections. We have the school climate surveys, which there are some questions in the school climate surveys, but in talking with Dr. Phillips, it doesn't give you the best data when it comes to trying to extrapolate from that and how you apply that to develop a strong communication strategic plan. So I stood back and said, I don't feel like I have high quality research to develop a strong plan. And so I went back to my training and said, next slide, what is going to give me that research? And it's a word we say a lot around here, and I know that, and that was one of the reasons why I didn't bring this up when I first came back to Lexington 1. I actually had a communications audit conducted when I first moved into my position in Richland 2. It is a common practice, and I had been through it, and I kind of will say that I thought, well, I've done that. I can do that myself. I really don't have to go outside. I quickly learned that was probably not the best practice once I got back here and thought about it. So I started looking into the communications audit because it had been about 10 years since I did mine over in Richland 2. And the reason I wanted to do it is because it gives you good qualitative and quantitative research. It'll give you surveys that we will send out to whoever and our parents, our teachers, but also community members. So that's your qualitative. But they will also do focus groups. They do assessments of your communication vehicles, your websites, your social media, your newsletters. You want it analyzed. If it's a communication channel and you want it analyzed, you can have it analyzed. So I knew all that. One thing I hadn't looked at recently was when is a good time to do a communications audit. It made sense for me going into Richland 2 because I had no background history in that district, and I needed to learn a lot about that district. I felt like I knew a lot about Lexington 1. I grew up here. I had worked here, and so that's one of the reasons why it didn't pop in my head when I first came back here. But I started looking at when is a good time to do communications audit, and there was like 5 or 6 check boxes, and these were the ones I pulled, and because we could check off all of these. We're doing a leadership transition, embarking on a new initiative. That's our strategic plan. We want to become more strategic in our communications. That's a want in my office, my team. And when a communication audit hasn't been conducted 5 or more years, and it hasn't been in our communications team that I'm aware of. So putting all that together, I said, you know what? I talked with our leaders, and I said, this is what I would like to propose. And they felt like that made sense to them, or at least bringing it to you all to make that proposal. Of course, it's going to cost some money. It's a one-time cost. So my proposal to you tonight for your consideration, not to vote on tonight, it would be up as an action item, is that you would designate fund balance up to no more than $50,000. It's really more in the range of probably $30,000 to $45,000 fund balance to have a communications audit conducted. We would put out an RFP and have it reviewed to select the best firm to conduct that for us, or association, whoever. So that would then help us develop the plan. So shift that goal to developing the plan during the 25-26 year. So are there any questions about a communications audit? Because my next part is I want to go into and say, well, what have you been doing, Libby, for 6 months if you haven't been working on this goal? I want to let you know we have been working on things to support those 2 target strategies. I just want to highlight those. But first, I'll answer any questions you have on the communications audit.
Ms. Roof, just one quick question. So typically, who does the communications audit? Is this the media? Is this?
It can be a marketing or advertising firm. There is a national association that has a stellar reputation for doing them. They've been conducting them for like 20 or 30 years. It's called the National Association for School Public Relations. You may not have even known that existed, but I'm a member of that. But you would put it out as an RFP process and make sure. But typically, those that respond are you usually do get a response from that organization. It's called INSPRA, and then you'll see local, maybe even some national or regional advertising, communications, marketing companies that will respond to the RFP. And then if there aren't any other questions, I will just run through quickly some of the things we have been doing to still support those two target areas, target strategies. One of the first things that with coming out of a new strategic plan that we felt was very important was to brand that plan so that it is easily digestible. Even though we worked very hard to hone in on that plan, it's 3 goals, very short list of target strategies. That is still a lot of stuff. If you want the public to really galvanize behind what you're doing, you needed to get it down to a 1-page, quick, easy, identifiable. And this actually coming up with this type of document came from the board. I think went to a presentation with the State Department, came back and said, hey, we like this. Can you come up with something like that? And using our graduate profile, we have really almost rebranded our whole district around our strategic plan, which to me is how you should do it because it galvanizes people around our core mission, our core plan. We're here to learn, help students learn, grow, and excel. So that has been a big effort of pushing that information out quickly after we started rolling it out in July.
Ms. Ruth, may I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Can you mind going back to that last slide?
Yes, ma'am.
I really like where you're going with this slide and how we're using it. And this
Previous
is perfect.
slide?
No, this is
This
perfect.
slide? Okay, yes.
And I wonder if I may make a suggestion. And
absolutely.
So as we talk about our goals, there are a couple of more specific goals that have metrics tied to them. I'm wondering if there's a way to incorporate those into this as well as where are we now? Like, where can we show where we are now and where we're going, and maybe over the next 5 years as we're heading, like show our progress so that we all know exactly where we are and how much we've got to move to get to our target. Maybe incorporate that a little more. Just a thought.
Yes. This would definitely be the posters and all that are in the schools are a static document, but we have this on our website, and then the smaller, the 8.5 by 11s actually will be definitely updated. I do see it as a document that should continue to be updated, different versions, and I would like to see some forward-facing. I don't know if dashboard is the right term, but some type of way to have a metric of the strategic plan and how we're doing, especially after we get maybe this first year behind us on the website that says, after year 1, we're here on this 95% goal or whatever. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Okay. One of the things, and the next two slides show actually, is that I have been hammering, and our principals will tell you, and that they probably feel like it's a hammer sometimes, that I talk almost monthly at our leadership meetings, is we can have the most amazing looking communications, but if it doesn't go from point A to point B and get delivered at point B, it is worthless. And so our contactability for our parents needs to be as high as we can get it. And we have 2 measurements that are helping us get there. The first is our Final Forms annual registration completion rate, which is, we changed how we did annual registration this year, and I know that knocked some people for a loop. But what you see here is we had a 97% completion rate on those forms. In previous years, we've been at about an 87% completion rate. That means we have 97% of our parents at least one time a year, going in and giving us a phone number and an email address. It may not stay current the whole year, but it is getting updated from 97%. And they now have the ability with Final Forms to update that themselves throughout the year. If you go to the next slide, you will see what that equates to in Parent Square with our new communication platform. Something we haven't ever had before is we're able to constantly monitor what that contactability rate is. It doesn't always stay at 99.9. Right now it's dipped down to 99.8. Megan Moore and I would like for it to be at 100, and we look at it every day and see what we can do. But you can look at it at the school level or the district level and see, why are we not at 99.9 today? Who came in? Whose contact information bounced back? Who do we not have any contact information? Maybe a new student enrolled, and we're showing us that we don't have any contact information for that student. We've never had a communication tool that's been able to help us drill down like that. And that's really the first step in that high-quality communication. So that has been a real important emphasis for us. In the next slide, you will see that another important part that we've done is we rolled out a new website. It's very mobile-friendly. This is the mobile version, and that is so important because the end user is looking at the website on their phones. And here's another important change that I have tried to bring to the website. It is a little hard to get used to, and I understand that. But we have, and I've tried to help people come to it, and I'm still working through it, and be patient and understanding. But we have Parent Square as a way to get information to our parents. What I would like to see us use the website for is our way to market the school district. We don't have a large marketing budget, and I'm okay with that. We use taxpayer dollars. We have a small, limited advertising budget. But on my website is my key way to market to the new parents, and that's what we want to do with our home page of our website. I see our website as the district's front door, your front porch. It's our school's front porch. And so those home pages need to say, hello, we're Lexington 1, come on in, we'd love to have you, right? So that's what we're working towards with the new website. And then we've also worked in helping our schools. It's been another priority to provide them more support in working with our school improvement councils. You saw in one of your board briefs, we have 100% compliance in the makeup of our school improvement council memberships. And we got provided training for the school improvement chairs and the principals. And so that falls in my office. I admitted to them last year I didn't do a great job of providing them support, so I'm trying to help make sure they have the support they need to leverage that important group of volunteers to help their school. And then lastly, we had a great opportunity to promote the new cell phone policy, and we wanted to make sure that we did it in a way that encouraged everybody to get on board with it, and we actually used our student intern, who is a student himself, to help us come up with the messaging. But that ended up being, starting in October, November, and December, we worked really hard on getting posters and different messaging up so that people didn't know, weren't hit at the last minute that this was coming, and also a kind and friendly and inviting and maybe just a little on their level way of communicating with students. It says, in case you haven't seen, some of the posters are very fact-oriented, no phones, no smartwatches, but we have one, here you are entering your no device era, and then there's one that says real life, R-E-A-L, not real life, R-E-E-L. So we tried to have some student-oriented communications, and that actually ended up being fun for us. I still don't think it, according to the reaction I had from my student, my own student, still didn't help that much to ease the angst, but I think, it has helped at least get the word out there. So that is communications efforts around those two priorities or strategies, and quickly, and then we'll come back as an action item about the communications audit. So any other questions?
Not a question, but I do have a comment. I think Parent Square has been a great development That's some feedback I've gotten. Some of the feedback I've gotten just recently has been some of our grandparents, aunts, and uncles within the district that for some reason now are having to raise children for various different family reasons. They're not as technically savvy, so they've been resorting to trying to email teachers. But I'm hearing that the schools are giving them a lot of good feedback to say, hey, you can use Parent Square to reach a teacher faster than you can even email a teacher. And that just kind of astounded them. So they were really interested in it, but were also saying it might be helpful if we had a video or something to show us how to use Parent Square because they're so challenged technologically. So it's just feedback that I've gathered just in the last couple of weeks.
We will make sure I think we have some videos on the website, but we can make sure we revisit some of those topics in Inside Voice. And I tell any parent they have a question. I was on a phone call today with a parent, helping her work out something with Parent Square. If you have a question, reach out to me. And you can use Parent Square many ways as an email. It comes to you in emails, so it really comes to your preference. And they have a lot of tutorials. So just ask for help, and we'll be sure to get the parents or the caregivers, the guardians, the help they need.
Is Peach Jar a part of? Can you explain Peach Jar?
Peach Jar is a tool used in the district. It is what we started using a while back before I came back to replace sending home paper flyers. And so organizations, and there's a criteria, typically it's a nonprofit or they're holding an event that doesn't have a registration fee. If it's a for-profit, like I think of the chiropractor office that has Kids Day. I mean, they're not nonprofit, but they have that event, so we approve that. But they go in, upload the flyer, and it is then approved either at the school level or the district level. There is a small fee for the organization that they pay, and then in most cases, in some cases, that fee can be waived, and then it is sent to parents and parents only. It does not go to students, and the parents can opt out of it.
And who at the school level approves it?
It typically is an administrator, and then in my office, it's one of our social media web content manager or myself if she's not available.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we are on the home stretch. Our final goal focuses on academic excellence and acceleration of learning. And Mrs. Gaskins and Dr. Rivers are going to wrap us up with this section.
Thank you. I will call my friend Dr. Phillips back to the podium, who's going to get us started.
We meet again. Okay, so if you could open up that first link there, please. So, as you may already know, each school has to submit a school renewal plan. It's very similar to our strategic plan. And then in pursuit of the goals that are on that strategic plan, each school develops every year a work plan that sort of breaks that down into sort of sub-goals and tasks that they're going to complete during that year in order to approach those strategic plan goals. So we measure at the middle of the year and the end of the year the progress toward those work plan goals. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about this afternoon. So if you go to the next slide. So when we look at determining their progress on these goals, and I'm just going to spend just a minute explaining this to you and then show you some examples. So as each school sets a variety of goals in their plan, we calculate progress on that as a percentage of the goal met. Does that make sense? And so here's an example. This is one of Deerfield's goals. So for their fall to winter growth, they had a goal. Their actual growth was 35.49% on that metric. with their goal of 24.5, which means their progress toward the goal was 144%. They exceeded that goal by 44%. And so we then color code those down here based on that fourth column there, that 144%, to determine if they're ahead of schedule, which would be the green, on track, which would be the yellow. And I think it's important that I emphasize this, that yellow is not bad. It's not a warning. It's not caution. It's they're right where they should be. And then red, which means they're a little bit behind schedule. Okay, so, and again, this is middle of the year, so a lot can change between now and the end of the year. But we provide schools with this update at the middle of the year, and they talk about it during their mid-year work plan reviews so that they get a good idea of where they stand at the middle of the year so they know what to do for moving forward. All right, so if we go to the next one. This is the same thing, but this is an achievement goal. And so growth is measured one way. In this way, we're looking at achievement. So we look at the middle of the year, and we determine that at the middle of the year, you shouldn't already be proficient in the entire year. So we look at how close they are to where we would expect them to be at the middle of the year. So you figure around 50% of the way to your goal, right? And so in this case, Deerfield had math achievement of 32.71 at the middle of the year with a goal for the end of the year of 63. So they're at about 52-ish% toward that goal. And so, again, on our color coding down here, I actually put the wrong one on there. No, I didn't. I'm good. So, I did. I put the wrong one on there. But you'll see on our screen here that the closer they are to 50, the more they are on track. If they're above 50, then they're ahead of schedule. Okay, so let's go to the next one. All right, so here is an example of what we look at to determine how our schools are doing. So again, remember I said green is ahead of schedule and yellow is on track. So you see a lot of yellow here. That's actually a really good thing. So this is our schools broken down by each of their work plan goals and their progress toward those goals. And we've included on here that student and teacher satisfaction index as well as their average daily attendance percentage. Now the average daily attendance is just color-coded by rank order, basically, so you can see which school has the highest attendance and which school has the lowest attendance, right? Because attendance is obviously, based on everything that's coming out of the news, there's a real issue right now. So this is our elementary work plan data for the year, or mid-year. Next slide, please. And this is our middle school. And you'll notice, look at all our middle schools on their math and reading growth. All of them are ahead of schedule. So we like this. And you'll see this some more in the next couple slides that we have. All right, so go ahead to the next one. All right, so every year we give the iReady interim test to our elementary and middle school kids at fall, winter, and spring. And we get a report from iReady. We have a whole meeting with the iReady team. They come and present us with the results that are compared not only within our schools, but to the state and the nation at that time. And so what you're seeing here is a quadrant report, and I'll explain it real briefly. In short, you want everybody to be up in quadrant number 1. So the 50th percentile is where that red and green horizontal line is, right? So that's the median. That's the 50th percentile of typical growth in math, okay? And then the dotted line above that is the national median at mid-year, okay? But we're looking right now for the quadrant's sake at that 50th percentile line. And so all those number or lettered dots there are our schools and where they fall. The vertical line is performance. That's the 50th percentile in performance, all right? So you want everybody to be on the right-hand side of the vertical line and above the horizontal line, high performance, high growth. Make sense? All right, so you'll notice we have a nice cluster of schools both above the 50th percentile line and above that national median line. We also still have some in quadrant 2 down there, and we have one down in quadrant 3. So this is looking at it by school. What I think is really important to look at next is how we look as a district. So let's look at it by grade. So if you go to the next slide. All right, so keep in mind, same thing. It doesn't have the pretty colors, but the 50th percentile line on growth and the 50th percentile line on performance, notice that every grade level is in the top right quadrant in math. Math has been a real focus for us in instruction over the past several years since COVID. And we're real happy that this is the best we've seen it look in a long, long time, particularly in math. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right, so now we're looking at reading. And you'll see in reading, we're almost completely, all our schools are almost completely above that 50th percentile of growth in there, and about half are in the high performance quadrant. Okay, so again, this is by school. Let's go to the next slide. And here we are by grade, and you'll notice that every grade level except one is in that top right-hand quadrant, and that one, 8th grade, is just barely sitting on that line. So we're very happy with these mid-year results on iReady as far as this growth versus performance comparison. There's still half a year to go, so we'd like to see this continue at the end of the year. But if we'll go to the next slide, this is our comparison to the state and the nation and the national norm. So on the left-hand side, that group of bars is math, and on the right, that's reading. If we look at the far right bar under math, that's our district distribution. And red, the pink and red represent those students who are substantially below grade level. The yellow are students who are just below grade level. The green ones are on or above grade level. Okay, so what you would love to see is our red chunks smaller than the district or than the state and national chunks, and our green chunks bigger than their chunks. So we do see that in both reading and math. So not only against the national norm, which was done in winter of 22-23, but the national values for the current year. So we're outpacing both the state and the nation in this particular test on both math and reading. All right, next slide, please. Okay, here's our high school work plan data. It's a little bit different. They're measured for their work plan on track to graduation progress. And you'll see that it is, all of them are ahead of schedule on that, so we're happy with that. Notice that the algebra, English, biology, and U.S. history are not color-coded. That's because we're giving high schools benefit of the doubt here on this, because they make deliberate scheduling decisions very often with fall courses that can affect this. And so these are just the values, their progress toward their goals as of fall. This will change in some of these places quite substantially in spring. And then, again, we have the satisfaction indices and the average daily attendance there. Okay, next slide. Questions?
So back to the last slide.
Yes, sir.
Not trying to single everybody out, but Pillion High School, they look like they are flat knocking it out the park in each of those categories.
Crushing it.
Is there a focus to try and get that done, or have they just figured out the secret sauce to make it happen? Or
you want to say something, Casey?
Now, River Bluff with no data, is that because of their scheduling?
Yes, sir. They're year-long, so we don't get any. We'll have one or two that float around in there, but it's not worth reporting here. Thank you.
I'll just mention that also as evidence, you had tonight an example of an elementary, middle, and high school schoolwork plan. And so Dr. Phillips has given us a very high-level overview for each school, but they're looking at this same data by grade level, by classroom, by student group, and really digging in mid-year, because while we're happy with the progress we've made, we want to keep the momentum and accelerate even more second semester. And so these mid-year reviews are essential to doing that. Dr. Erica Bissell, I was about to call her Billups. Dr. Erica Bissell has led our efforts in response to our curriculum effectiveness audit and the recommendation that we create a curriculum management plan. So I'm going to turn it over to her for a quick brief on where we are with that.
Good evening. I apologize ahead of time if I cough over much. I've had the gunk, and I just hope I don't have an outburst like I just had, so I think I'm good now. So as Ms. Gaskin said, the impetus, you can go to the first slide. The impetus for the curriculum management plan was the curriculum audit. Dr. Price also mentioned it earlier. And when we engaged last year, when they provided their final report, they gave us 5 recommendations. The second recommendation was that we should consider drafting a curriculum management plan. And so the curriculum management plan recommendation specifically said, this is the one part I'm going to read to you, and then I'll just talk from there forward, is to develop and implement a comprehensive curriculum management system that coordinates and prioritizes all curriculum management functions and tasks in the district, develop clear expectations for rigor in student materials and resources. And basically what that says, and the purpose of a curriculum management plan, is without that direction from a curriculum management plan, there's a greater chance of significant variation in curriculum design, inconsistent adherence to the district's approved written curriculum, fragmented instructional focus, and an ineffective monitoring of practices. So the whole goal of this is to ensure some more consistency across our system in the way of curriculum. Thank you. So the vision for the curriculum management plan is for students to have access to high-quality curriculum that creates conditions for them to successfully realize the graduate profile, to have high-quality curriculum that guides their teachers to provide them with teaching and learning experiences that are guided by our instructional framework, and then high-quality curriculum that meets the specific criteria that is consistent with grade-level standards that are provided to us either by the state or nationally, depending on the course, and that ensures that students are getting a common experience regardless of the school that they attend in Lexington 1. So just a brief overview, high level of our development process. We, of course, reviewed the recommendations from the audit. We studied other curriculum management plans from other districts, both in-state and out-of-state, in districts that are similar to Lexington 1. We've started to draft a plan and have started to gather feedback on the plan. And then this summer, the plan will actually be the driver for the curriculum work that is done by our content coordinator. So it will be in full swing when we get into curriculum work this summer. So currently the draft in its current state is 30-plus pages. So this is just an overview of the bullets, or basically the outline of what is included in the plan. So it includes and is anchored by our mission, district mission, our graduate profile, and our instructional framework. It includes roles and responsibilities of all staff members across the instructional services department, as well as other departments, and the hand that they play in the development of curriculum and the implementation of curriculum. It also outlines the principles and components of effective curriculum, which is the triangle that you see up here. So research shows that quality curriculum is a triangulation of the written curriculum, the taught curriculum, and the assessed curriculum. All of those things should feed each other and be aligned to ensure quality, coherent curriculum across the system. So just digging a little bit deeper into each of those 3 important components. The written curriculum is really the what. It's the curricular resources that are provided by not only the state through instructional materials adoption, but then also the work of the core or the content coordinators in curriculum resources that are aligned to the depth of the grade level standards. The instructional practices, or the top curriculum, is the how, and that is embedded excuse me, that is anchored by our instructional framework. So it's how the teachers deliver the written curriculum, and that's where they have the autonomy to really let their professional expertise lead the way. So there's some consistency in written, but the way it's delivered, there are some high leverage strategies that are outlined in the instructional framework, but the experience that the children get is where the teacher really has that art of teaching comes alive. And then the assessed curriculum or the tested curriculum is our why. It's how we allow students to show what they know and then hopefully show that on the assessments that we're held accountable to and that influence our school report card. And then also in the curriculum management plan is outlines how we're going to monitor and evaluate the implementation of curriculum across our system to ensure that we are not only, that we are a school system and not a system of schools, right? So we all are one body and one system working together. Embedded in the plan will also be appendices that outline curriculum revision cycles. Every content area will be on a cycle that will be public so that teachers will know, okay, we just got new standards. That means we're going to have new curriculum resources. Those will be revised over the 5-year cycle of the standards. And then year 5, when new standards come out, we'll start the cycle all over again. It also gives our content coordinators the opportunity to prioritize. They cannot revise all of the curriculum for every course that they oversee every summer, though they try very hard to. So they need to find a balance so that becomes a cycle versus trying to revise and fix up everything every year. Sometimes we just have to live with something for a minute, collect the feedback, and then put it on a cycle. And so here are our next steps. Our next steps are to share this next week with Teacher Leadership Council and gather feedback on the implementation of the curriculum management plan to ensure that what we are setting out to do is going to be most helpful to the teachers in the classroom. We are also going to get all courses pre-K to 12 on a curriculum development cycle, and then align the district's curriculum management plan with our professional learning plan, our assessment plan, and our instructional technology plan. So again, like we say, those plans are one plan and not siloed plans that are working independent of each other. And Dr. Price actually reminded me that another next step that should be up here is that we will be revising policy that specifically speaks to curriculum based on the audit's recommendations to ensure that what we say in policy is what we're actually living in practice. Yes.
Dr. Bissell, I have a question about your first bullet point.
Sure.
Where you say share with Teacher Leadership Council and gather feedback. I just think about maybe some of our teachers that are new to the district. How do we go about gathering feedback from a teacher that is not on Teacher Leadership Council?
So the role of the folks on Teacher Leadership Council is to be a liaison between the council and the school that they represent. So the Teacher Leadership Council is made up of the current Teacher of the Year and the Teacher of the Year from the year prior. And so at the end of every Teacher Leadership Council meeting, we tell them these were the things for information. These are the things you need to share forward. These are the things we need you to come back with input from your school base to bring to the next meeting. So this will be one of the items that we will ask to share for them to share forward with the staff at the school that they represent.
Okay, and is that something we typically, that Teacher Leadership Council has I guess almost a spotlight on them when they go back to XYZ school and, hey, they just had a meeting, you need to tell them if you have feedback. I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't break down the
So I don't want to speak for Dr. Price, who's been leading Teacher Leadership Council this year. When Dr. Rochelle Battles and I did, that is how we finished each meeting, saying, again, this was an item for information, no action needed, or this is an item that you need to go ask your administrative team for a space in maybe a faculty meeting for you to share this information and gather feedback. Dr. Price?
Absolutely. Same thing that's going this year. It's encouraged. And hopefully they will have the opportunity to do so. Whenever they pull together as a faculty meeting anything that they'd like to share with the group, that they would have the opportunity to do that. And we publish our agendas ahead of time so that they want to gather input to bring with them to the meeting. They'll be able to do that as well.
We also, as part of the curriculum management plan, are embedding the expectation that we have a way to gather feedback from teachers on the actual curriculum. So this will be on the curriculum management plan, but we want to get constant feedback as teachers are implementing about adjustments we need to make for the next year.
So our revision cycles and revision practice will be based on feedback from classroom use, not just what we think should be revised, but what teachers have said, I tried this may need some, this worked great, do more of it, or if this is something that didn't work so well, we might want to look at it in its next revision cycle.
One more quick question. So you mentioned the policies that we might need to review related to this. Where does that fall in the kind of the timeline we're looking at for our policy reviews?
So I know I am charged with looking at IG this very soon. But as far as other policies that are related, Dr. Price, was there a timeline that was shared that talks about, so all the I policies really touch curriculum and instruction. So Ms. Gaskins has a beautiful chart that she can share with you that shows how all the I policies are going to get reviewed, either to, as Dr. Price said, they look great, we just need to put that we looked at them on X date, or they really are not in line with practice, and so we need to make those adjustments. Ms. Gaskins, do you have anything specific to say about which policies we're going to look at? The I policies are all getting a look over to see which ones need to be prioritized, and the ones related to curriculum will certainly rise to the top. But IG, I know, is one that we'll be looking at very soon.
So we're starting with the School Board Association policies, and then those I policies may kind of filter in as y'all do work?
And most of the the curriculum audit is a place where the I policies were given a lot of attention, and so we're going to be looking at what the curriculum audit says as a place to prioritize the I policies, in addition to what the School Board Association said.
Thank you.
And other topics that have come up and had provided an opportunity to look at a board policy.
Dr. Bissell, the second bullet point there, get all courses on a curriculum development cycle. Could you elaborate just a little bit on what a curriculum development cycle looks like?
Mm-hmm. So it's most easily explained for our courses that have state standards provided. Standards are provided on a 5-year cycle. So usually you have standards come out in implementation year, and then roughly 5 years later, that's what they say they're going to be on that revision cycle. We've seen things go awry sometimes, but usually we will at that. So when standards come out, new curriculum needs to be aligned to what the new standards say. So standards may have shifted grade levels, standard expectations may have changed. So the first year of a standards implementation, curriculum will get an overhaul because it has to align to the new standards and address any changes that have been made. And then to Ms. Gaskin's point, once we implement that first year, we have a system for gathering feedback from teachers to say, these are the things that aren't quite working. And I would say year 2 of the cycle, probably some heavy revisions are made because we based it strictly off of what standards said. Now we have to determine what that really looks like in practice and make sure that those two things align. Then for years 3, 4, and 5, we kind of need to just live with the curriculum because we continue to change. We never have a baseline, and nobody can ever get comfortable with the materials that they're using. So, of course, if there is something that is not working, and I said this in another presentation, we are about continuous improvement. So if a teacher or a group of teachers says to us, year 3 or 4, it is not to say revisions cannot be made, but we certainly want to get them as good as they can be as soon and early in the cycle as possible so that we can use those and have consistent implementation. And then in the last year of year 5, when those new standards start coming out, that's when that next summer we start looking at the new standards, and then again a big overhaul of curriculum would take place that summer. Does that help? It's a little trickier with courses that don't have state standards provided, but then we look to the national standards, and then for others like our courses that are singletons, we just work closely with them and usually with the coordinator that oversees that area to ensure that we might not have state or national standards guiding us. There's consistency in, say, what our orchestra teachers, they have national standards, but let's just say they didn't, are doing across the district, and they still have a curriculum that they can use to guide their instruction. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. We've kind of gone from afternoon to evening. So good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here to kind of share with you some things about information technology. In about a month or so, we're going to give you a full plan and an overview of how IT supports Lexington One. When you think about information technology, there are a lot of ways that we support HR, instruction primarily, finance, and so the applications and programs that are used, the network infrastructure, the hardware, the software, all those things are in place to support the district in operation. But for today, what we're trying to address is how does IT support instruction and what happens in the schools. And so just hearing the information about testing and I-rated performance from Pillion High School and other schools, you can see that it's important to have a working device in a student's hand at all times. And as a former school administrator, this is the worst thing a teacher can have in the classroom is to have technology not to work. Same thing for a student. If my iPad or MacBook is not working, that delays the kind of instruction I'm receiving. So we try to focus on that and to make sure everything is up and going and ready and working in our schools. And so our district recognizes the vital role technology plays in education. Students use devices in increasingly purposeful ways, and those needs evolve as they progress through grade levels. To ensure students always have access to appropriate and up-to-date technology, the Information Technology team collaborates closely with instructional services. Together, we determine the best mobile computing devices to support learning at each stage of a student's academic journey. So to achieve this goal, we've implemented a comprehensive device refresh plan, and that's what I will go over in the coming month or so, but right now I'll give you kind of an overview of what that looks like. This plan prioritizes providing new devices to students in key transition years. So those key transition years are 3rd grade, 6th grade, and 9th grade. And so when you think about 3rd grade, students get an iPad in 3rd grade, and that equips them for expanding digital learning in that particular grade level. So when you get that device in a 3rd grade student's hand, that device stays with students for 4th grade and 5th grade. So that device is with that student all the way until 5th grade. And at 5th grade, that device then is recycled in a K through 2 classroom. So it goes down to kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade. So that iPad that's purchased in 3rd grade stays in our ecosystem for 6 years. And so we get a good bit of life out of that device with this comprehensive refresh plan for our students. So in 6th grade, those students enter middle school, they get a new device. And at that time, you start to see students using the device more and more, especially for learning management systems, assessments, and those kind of things in classroom. It supports their learning in a more complex and academic type of way, especially when it comes to their learning management system. So 6th grade student gets a new iPad. 7th grade, it stays with that student when they become a 7th grader. And then when they become an 8th grader, the device stays with them as well. And so at the end of 3 years, you can probably attest that the student has really used that device. And so at that point, that device can be recycled, but may not be in the best condition. And so what we'll try to do at that point is recycle the good devices, and then we will sell off those devices that we can to the community or to staff. In high school, students receive a MacBook, and that MacBook stays with that student through 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. So 4 years that MacBook is in that student's hands. And it provides them with a powerful tool that's necessary for advanced coursework, college preparation, and future career paths. And so this comprehensive refresh plan includes, once again, giving a device to a student in 3rd grade, 6th grade, and 9th grade. So this staggered refresh cycle ensures that students have a reliable working device at all times. And this plan has been developed over time. And there was a time that we purchased all of our devices at once, and that cost millions of dollars, sometimes through a bond referendum of some sorts. But we wanted to have a systemic way of sustaining this each year so it would not cause a heavy burden on our budget. And so by doing it in those strategic years, 3rd grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, we're maximizing our budget in a more meaningful way. The slide presentation that you'll see in the coming month will give you a more detailed list of the timeline, the costs associated with it. We try to also maximize our 8% capital bond money to use and purchase devices on tax-free weekend, and so we can save state sales tax on that weekend. So we do it in that manner as well. Sustainability is also a core component of our strategy. iPads that are no longer under warranty are then redistributed to K-2 classrooms, as I mentioned. Teachers will receive a device as an additional instructional tool, expanding access across the entire district. Similarly, older MacBooks find new life in school libraries as well as with district staff. And finally, any remaining devices that are not in use, we also have a program that we started about a year ago that we're going to work with a vendor, and then we'll be able to have a community buyback program with those older devices so that staff, community members, students who are graduating can then purchase a device and then use that when they go to college in that manner, as well as you can use the device at home if you want to purchase it for personal use. And so we have a way of generating revenue from our older devices, and that revenue is helping us enhance or improve the interactive panels in our classrooms. And so we're using the money from those buyback program sale that we had previously to upgrade those interactive panels in our elementary classrooms. So we'll continue to operate in that manner. So that's just kind of a broad overview. But like I said, in a month, we're going to go deeper, where you can see how hardware is working in the district, how our software is working, how we support Parent Square, how we support Frontline, Business Plus, all those type of things, and our connectivity. And we're so keen right now on wireless connectivity across our district. So it's important to have a very robust system. Access points have to be purchased and updated every 10 years or so that we can have that connectivity in our schools and large spaces, classrooms, so that students can use a device on demand at any time. So I'll pause there with kind of a opening for questions, and anything I can answer further.
Yeah, a couple questions.
Yes,
Noticing from the chart you gave, so Apple Care is costing us, I guess, around around $750,000 a year.
Yes.
So we don't give out. So if it doesn't have Apple Care, we don't hand those out.
That's correct.
So if we have new units that don't have Apple Care, what happens to those?
If we have
new units that don't have Apple,
all of their purchases through Apple, we purchase a warranty for those devices before we pass them out to students. So every device that goes to a student or staff new has a warranty.
Okay. So if they were new and we didn't have anything, we wouldn't be able to use one. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And we don't have any of those?
No, we don't.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, after 3 years for an iPad, that warranty ends, but we do recycle it. But at that point, we have enough devices in our ecosystem that if something breaks, we don't repair it. We just issue a new one in that fashion. So we kind of work it that way.
Dr. Rivers, you said we should be hearing something in the coming months. Now, our next regular meeting is in 3 weeks, so would you anticipate we'll have something then, or probably the March
We're planning
meeting?
for March to have the IT presentation.
Okay.
With finance, and so it'll be kind of combined presentation, so you can see the costs involved with technology across the district.
Okay.
And at that time, is that when we're going to also have the academic discussion? I know that we don't purchase new devices for K through 2, but just talking about best practices of what type of technology is used for our younger learners.
So one of the things that Dr. Rivers and Dr. Howard Bissell are working on is a set of technology beliefs about what we believe, how we believe technology should be integrated by both teachers and students at each grade level throughout the district. So we are working on capturing that in a written explanation and set of beliefs to go along with the refresh plan that supports it.
Good question. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much.
And I know we had to go out of order tonight, but it's very fitting to end with the Lexington One Way. So our technical core, which we consider to be 3 things: our graduate profile, our instructional framework, and now our curriculum management plan, make up what we're calling the Lexington One Way as we implement our new strategic plan. And so we've launched a website so that teachers have everything they need related to each of those things. Coming up, the curriculum management plan, but already the instructional framework and graduate profile, and all of the resources aligned to those available on this website. Also, we've developed a monitoring tool that schools use both at their end-of-year review as they're reflecting and planning for the upcoming school year, and their mid-year review to focus their school work plans on those areas that need the most emphasis. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Dr. Price, I think.
Okay. Well, I believe that gets us to the end of our presentation, and thank you for hanging in there with us. I think, as you can see, there's been an awful lot of work that's been done in the first 6 months of a 5-year plan. You've heard a few voices tonight, but they represent a lot of people throughout Central Services and across our district that have been working incredibly hard on their commitment to the strategic plan that's been adopted and approved by the board. So we look forward to bringing you future progress updates towards reaching all of the goals within the 5-year plan. And at this time, I believe we have a special presentation. You want to introduce?
So when we were planning this for the January 23rd workshop, we were going to address school improvement designations and have the two schools that presented last week also present tonight. So we shifted this a little bit, but we are so thankful to have staff here from White Knoll Middle School tonight. All year we've been featuring mission and action and showing different schools that are really exemplifying our mission statement. And so White Knoll is one of the schools in the district that has a school improvement designation because of the Students with Disabilities subgroup. And with the Every Student Succeeds Act, states are required to identify criteria to give schools school improvement designations so we can really target any student groups who need another level of support. So they are an additional targeted support and improvement school, aka ATSI, in terms of how school improvement designations are provided in South Carolina. I will turn it over to Dr. Adams, who will introduce the White Knoll team.
Well, and Dr. Adams, Nicole Adams, I'm the Executive Director of Special Services. They are allowing me to be part of the White Knoll team tonight and introduce them. Do we have a presentation? Yes, okay. I was scared for just a moment. My initial is just an introduction. They were an ATSI school, and we did a district-wide plan on exactly how we were going to address the needs of our ATSI schools, and this was a school that truly embraced that plan and what we did, and they became a national exemplar. So I want to channel my inner golden girl and take you back. Picture it. Lexington County School District 1, October 24th, 2003. I came before the board and presented about ATSI and our data-based individualization plan that we were going to use for all of our ATSI schools. So that is just the slide from that. We attached some little fast facts in case you were interested in ATSI. But with that, we'll introduce each other as everyone comes up. But I would like to introduce Maria Jimenez, our Special Education Academics Coordinator. She's going to tell you a little bit about DBI and then hand it over to the school.
Hello. Well, if the last 2 hours weren't exciting, you're just about to be overwhelmed with excitement here. Again, I'm Maria Jimenez, and I'm the Academics Coordinator for Special Services, and I'm excited to talk to you today about DBI, but most importantly about the work that White Knoll Middle School has done. But I want to take you back a little bit first, just to give you some background knowledge on exactly what DBI is. Oh, there it is. Look at that. DBI is right there on the right-hand side, and you can click on there. It'll take you to exactly what DBI is. It's a data-driven decision-making process that's in line with our technical practices. And if you click on technical practices, it'll actually take you to a crosswalk that explains how DBI is directly connected to our strategic plan and the Lexington One Way. DBI is intended for small groups of students who, for some reason, are not making adequate progress in their current intervention, not meeting their IEP goals, have persistently low academic achievement and/or high-intensity, high-frequency behavior. As our mission here in Lexington One is to support our DBI teams through intentional resource allocation, targeted professional learning, and supportive coaching, that is exactly what we did. We partnered with our schools to make sure that they had everything they need to make meaningful progress. In August of 2023, we partnered with the National Center for Intensive Intervention. They came in and did some very intense PD with our teams, with our ATSI schools. The graphic on the right shows all of the real steps that are included in data-based individualization. We like to always remind folks that they are steps, but it's really about a process and a framework. So it replaces how we look at data, doesn't add another step to how we address data. So step number one is really all about making sure that we're using that student data, letting those work plans guide us. We use those really to research and secure evidence-based interventions and practice guides that teachers could access readily and quickly. The second step which you'll see repeats, is progress monitoring, and then there's collection of diagnostic data. To do this, to support our schools, we secured reliable curriculum-based measurement tool that was time efficient. We wanted teachers to have something in hand that they could use really quickly and get good information quickly. That's what DBI reinforces. And so those teams used that data then to make good decisions and to drive the intervention that was put in place, which is the next step. Intervention adaptation is the core of data-based individualization. So we strategically met with our DBI teams throughout the school year to make sure that we supported the school-based intervention decisions. Getting started with DBI required routine professional learning and intentional coaching. We learned a lot. And so this team in particular shared a lot during their learning. So what we developed was a DBI microsite, which now lives on our hub, which allows future DBI teams, current DBI teams, to be able to really dip into the hard work that the pilot did for them. And so it's really readily available to them for them to access quickly. Schools that embraced DBI saw a positive impact, and they all have celebrations to share. But tonight, I am very excited because White Knoll Middle School has been nationally recognized by the National Center of Intensive Intervention. So if you Google White Knoll Middle School and NCII, they come up, which is really exciting. So it is my honor, next slide, it is my honor to introduce Mr. Hardy, who is the principal of White Knoll Middle School, if you didn't know, and then Lisa Hartman, who is the department chair for special services.
So the next slide is our DBI framework. So I'm going to start off by saying that this has been a whole team effort. Our whole school, our whole team dived right into all of this. Part of our team is back here now with us, but it has really been a huge team effort. We have really, Mr. Hardy is in all of our meetings. So I just wanted to say that it is the work of all of us back there. But so our DBI framework, we meet several times a month at the beginning. So we really had to dive in and know exactly what we were going to do, what interventions we were going to use, how were we going to collect the data, know that we were getting what we needed. So we met a lot at the beginning. Sometimes we're better than others. Sometimes we're prettier conversations. But then once we've gotten used to it, we are able to slow to 1 or 2 times. Now this year we still meet once, twice a month, depending on the month and what data we have. We always set those points of what we need to bring back to the table. So we're always looking at current data. All members of the special ed department meet, so self-contained teachers, resource teachers. We have a lot of co-teachers that have not been at the actual meetings, but they bring a lot of information with their co-teachers so that we can share that. Mr. Hardy is always in our meetings. He provides our entertainment. And Ms. Shillett, most of the time, is in our meetings. We have had other schools come in to our meetings to watch and observe. We have district personnel that comes in, coaches, like we've had them all at our DBI meetings. We really had to base this around trusting each other. We had to know that it was going to be a safe space. We were going to have hard conversations. It's not easy to look at data and stay objective to it because it can get personal. It can get really personal if a kid is not making progress in either academic or behavior. So we had to know that it was all going to be a safe place. We could trust each other, speak freely. We knew even if we had hard conversations, at the end of the day, we were still going to leave as a team with interventions, with something in hand that we were going to go back and try with that student. So even if we had to follow up and be like, hey, are we really, this is the intervention we're doing. Is everybody on the same page? But just permission to speak freely. And then Mr. Hardy and I always meet. If you don't know Mr. Hardy, he loves a good agenda. He's like the king of agendas. So we always meet and plan our agenda before, make sure that we have all the data what we want to look at. He is really good at linking everything. We are really good at reaching out to the team so they know what data to bring so that we can look at it. And then here will be Mr. Hurdy.
So on this next slide, Mr. Phillips kind of talked about this a little bit as he was talking about iReady. So on the iReady testing, as you know, we do 3 of those during the year. So we're going to the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and the end of the year. Typical growth for a student means that if they're 2 or 3 grade levels below, they're still going to be 2, 3 grade levels below if they're hitting typical growth. So what we have to focus on is the stretch growth. And so whenever we were meeting in the team to talk about what's our goal, what are we shooting for, we were always talking about the stretch growth that we were going for. And so we had quite a bit of growth even in the mid-year. It doesn't show it up on here, but we had some kids that were meeting stretch growth, and we were in January. So we had quite a bit of growth on that. And you need to realize, like, these are the kids. So this was our resource kids and our self-contained kids. So these are kids that are 2 or 3 grade levels or more behind that we knew if we did not do something with, there's not going to be a lot of options for them in high school. So we knew we had to do something different with them. But to kind of put this in perspective, the district with English, looking at for the district stretch growth, 39.2% of the students met the stretch growth in reading, where in this group, 56.8% of them met. In math, it was 30.1% met in the district, where in this group it was 42%, which anyone who does research would say obviously it showed that we were making a difference and it was making a change with that. The increased percentile, we talk about this all the time. You can look at scores, but it's about percentile ranking. You want those kids to move up. If they're in the 23rd percentile, we want to move up to the 30th percentile. And so 55% of them, 56%, moved up in percentile ranking, which means they were growing faster than their peers at that level. So that was very encouraging for us. So, and we kind of hit on some of these. So every meeting, we had fun too, but the one thing that ended up morphing into was it wasn't just about data, it was about the process too. Like, how can we look at the IEP to help this kid to be able to be successful? Or we look at their IEP goals. This isn't, we talked about curriculum. We changed the math and reading curriculum because one of the things we say all the time is, if it's not working, don't keep doing it. Try something different. And so we weren't getting the growth, so we changed it up. And Dr. Adams enabled us to be able to get some new curriculum to be able to replace that. And we got quite a bit of growth that helped out a lot with the resource. We were using it in resource and also in our self-contained classrooms. And then I think the big thing was the process ended up making all the special ed teachers ended up being on the same page. There were some hard conversations in the beginning because, whenever you're talking about stuff, if you don't have your data, why didn't you bring your data? You got to have your data. We're going to meet again next week because you don't have the data the way we need it. So some of that was like that, but it got to where it was, people look forward to it. And the thing that was interesting was, so this year, we used the money in a different way, which was great. We're taking advantage of that too. But the teachers came and said, we want to stay and keep this going. So they don't get paid and they stay after school with us to put up with me and Ms. Hartman. But we had the same conversations, the same meeting. And part of it is because I truly believe they see the difference. They see that it's making an impact.
I was just going to say, when we come to the meetings, so we know what our kids' goals are, but it was really important for us as a team to make sure that our students understood our progress monitoring. They were taking the progress monitoring. They still take the progress monitoring every 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending if it's reading. So we wanted a way to make sure that the kids were also knowing what their goals were and what their progress was. So we have come up with some really creative ideas to make sure that we're sharing it as a team, but that also the kids are able to graph that data and they know what it is. Even in the self-contained class, like Ms. Hansley's class, for example, has a new system with graphs, and she has little smiley face stickers that go on the charts. But, we could have a kid on a first grade level, but they can tell you what their goals are and what they're working towards. So it was really important for us as a team to make sure that the kids knew why they were taking the test, why we were doing progress monitoring, what our goals were, what their end goal is. But it has given us meaningful data in IEP meetings. We're able to pull it up. The parents know it. We all call parents with the good, like if somebody has met their goal and we have to amend their IEP to go up to the next grade level, or on iReady if they've met stretch goals. So it has given us good data to communicate with the parents. Sometimes the parents, before they didn't want to hear anything negative. I mean, they knew their kids were working 3, 4, 5 grade levels below, but to hear the positives that they're meeting their goals, and the kids are excited when they go home, and the kids are able to say, hey, I met my reading goal today, or my reading fluency went up 20 words, or whatever it could be. That DBI process that we go through has allowed us to do that. So it came at a really pivotal time where we were really stretching for what do we do? How do we raise the level for our students? How do we get them engaged in it? And so DBI, I think, came in at just right. It just kind of fell in our lap, and we just went with it. So,
And
we had no choice, but we went with it. And now we love it.
The kids embrace the testing. Like, it's funny to watch. Whenever they do their testing, like, they will find me out and the other APs to be like, look at my score. This is what I did. And these were kids not that long ago probably weren't that excited about that test. And so it's just nice seeing that they're getting excited with it, because that's how you're going to get the growth. So we had some quotes that we wanted to share from, and this is from our staff. I'm not going to read it to you, but this is Miss Hainsley. She's one of our self-contained teachers. And the one thing I'm going to point out is this team has stayed together. So like last year, we had one person retire. We got a new teacher who is fitting in amazingly well with the team, and just that support, and like we just did not miss a step. And so that's the part, I think, like they talk about relationships, that's the part that's helping the teachers to want to stay together. And as you stay together longer, you come up with better ideas over and over again.
And this quote is from David Barry. He is one of our 6th grade resource teachers that he also does co-teaching. And this is from Corey Bernhagen. She is a brand new first-year teacher. That is amazing. She is a stellar special ed teacher.
I think she thought we were really weird in the beginning.
Well, because he quacks. If you guys have not heard him quack, maybe he'll quack for you.
You're not supposed to share that in a board meeting. But so this is the district.
And this is the piece where the rubber meets the road. This is the important piece. You heard Dr. Phillips talk earlier about program evaluation. So at the end of the year, it was part of my job to then evaluate how this intervention went. So just like they had to collect data, I had to collect my own data, evaluate the program, and figure out, did this work, how did it work, and should we continue? And I was overjoyed with the program evaluation results. So what we did was we took all 4th through 8th graders. So every single student with an IEP did not go through DBI. It was their kids that were struggling the most. And we took, and when you have 2 years worth of growth, the state test is vertically articulated, so you compare the year before to the next year. So they had to have been a 4th grader because you needed a 3rd grade result to compare to the 4th grade result. And we stopped at 8th grade because high school, it's no longer vertically articulated to that. So we matched DBI students with non-DBI students. They had to match across 9 different categories. So they were very similar students. All very demographic data, their primary disability, their amount of service minutes, all kinds of things. Don't let me get too nerdy. But we had statistical significance with our results with a 0.027 p-value. What that means in layman's terms is I can say with great confidence that what they did, the results were because of what they did. And this was across the district, across the 12 schools that participated. It was 11 ATSI schools. We had one that could not participate. They had contract teachers. They had a lot they had to focus on, and our priority school. So of all of those schools, we had statistically significant results in math. We only used math because with ELA, the standards has changed, so the test had changed, so we couldn't compare year to year. But it was a great program evaluation on the quantitative part, so we showed that it worked. But also we also did a qualitative evaluation where we talked with all the teachers. How did it work? What happened? What worked best? What didn't work? And they also had very similar results in that they said it brought our team together. It was amazing. It helped me do my job. The negatives was that it was time consuming. Everything that is worth doing is hard. If it was easy, we wouldn't even have to do this. So we had some amazing results. So what we did this year, we said we absolutely want to expand this as much as possible. Except there is so much new going on that we had to be very strategic with how we expanded that. We have partnered some folks with sister schools. It has been a slightly more voluntary than we would have chosen in a typical year where there isn't a new strategic plan, where there isn't new technical practices, where there isn't new software systems, where there isn't new. And with it being difficult enough, we didn't want to turn everyone off immediately. So we've tried to slide it in where we can. But the things that we've also done on top of that is one of the things that I've talked to you about once upon a time, probably in early 23 as well, was the Stronger Connections grant. With the Stronger Connections grant, we're using a portion of that to create modules, asynchronous modules that teachers can access. We'll use them in a tiered process where any teacher can access it at any time, whenever they would like. But then we'll have a second tier, which is a little more guided, where you'll be required with Ms. Jimenez to do the modules, but then there'll be teaching afterwards. And then there'll also be tier 3, where it's you and I are going to do this together. We're going to walk through it hand in hand, and we're going to make it work together. So we will use that. That is currently being created. Many of them are out of beta and ready, and we've tested them with 3 different of ATSI schools, and so that will expand. So we're building those extra supports, and we intend to maybe be a little more assertive with our rollout next year because hopefully we'll be past some new and able to do that. And then we also included, that one was not in your initial packet because that's hot off the presses. That is the National Center for Intensive Intervention Spotlight, where they feature all of these lovely people. You can click, go straight to their website, and there's longer videos of all of us. All of these people that you see here just kind of explaining the process, how we came to it, and what we did. Do you all have any questions for White Knoll Middle School? Again, national level exemplar. NCII was thrilled. Because they almost never get a secondary example. And so it is amazing the things that they have done. So ask away.
I don't have any questions, but I know that, Don, when you first came to the district, you had to wonder, what in the world have I gotten myself into? And I know that this has to be personally rewarding to you to see this achievement. And I commend Dr. Adams, Ms. Jimenez, and Ms. Hartley, yourself, and the folks in the cheap seats back here. Outstanding. It's exciting. It's exciting to me because I know where you came from.
My question is, so this was a federal grant? This program was?
Additional Targeted Support and Improvement is a federal designation. Stronger Connections was a grant.
Okay. So can you explain the designation, how that fits year over year, and can we implement this in all of our schools? And
well, ATSI is not a positive designation. It is actually when you are underperforming or low performing. They compare you. It's a 3-year. additional targeted support and improvement is a 3-year designation. So they only come up with a new list every 3 years. But you're compared to a comprehensive support improvement school. These are the schools that are performing in the bottom 5% of the state. So ATSI means you have a subgroup. It could be many different subgroups that is performing like the bottom 5% of the state. So there are some funds that come along with it, but it's not a list you actually want to get on.
Okay.
So we
I'm
did
thinking,
use the...
I guess, of special education as far as...
Well, and for special education, we are absolutely supporting it through our IDEA grant with the progress monitoring tool and the training, and Stronger Connections is supporting part of that. We do actively look for grant opportunities to find money wherever we can. The biggest piece that is the hardest to come by is time. And I don't have a grant that will give us extra time. The professional development, the training, and the time together to train, and the people to provide the training are what is the most important. And that's where that collaborative planning and or other opportunities with subs to plan or train, our biggest challenge is time.
Well, it was awesome to hear you guys talk about this, and I commend you as well. It's really an awesome thing that you've done, so thank you for sharing with us.
I told you it was going to be exciting.
Okay, I think that wraps up 3.1 on our agenda. So we'll move to 3.2. Dr. Postlewaite, would you like to set up this discussion for us?
Given the hour, I would like to suggest we move it to February 25th, if that's okay with you.
Board? And that would be great because Ms. Flashnick can join us in this discussion on the board priorities too. So, okay. We will move to, do we need to take any action on that because we're changing? Well,
To table it.
to table it. Okay. Do I hear a motion to table item 3.2?
Madam Chair, I move that we table item 3.2
To our February.
till our February 25th meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pizzuti. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, that is great. Motion carries. Item 4.1 is just our adjournment. We'll have another board workshop next Thursday. We get to do this again, February 13th from 11 to 1. This workshop will focus on school finance. And on behalf of the board, we would like to recognize our school counselors and career specialists this week during National School Counseling Week. Thank you so much for your work in helping our students succeed. And with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Madam Chair, before we adjourn, I'd like to take a point of privilege to point out that someone near and dear to all of us is celebrating a birthday today, a milestone of 65. She started out as a chorus teacher in the district. She served as a principal in the district. And she was once our Mary Gaskins. Joyce Carter is celebrating number 65 today. So happy birthday to her. And with that, I move that we adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.